Hello and welcome to today's video. This time we'll be taking a whistle-stop tour through my collection of vintage Giles cartoon annuals. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay then, so I'm about to pop these Giles annuals into long-term storage for a couple of years. So I wanted to give them a bit of a film just before they sort of went away out of sight and just take one last look at what I think are absolutely great series to collect and extremely good value nowadays. The price of Giles annuals, generally speaking, even number one here now, has definitely come down as I guess people are completing their sets or more copies have ended up going on the market. But this used to be very easily £100 book nowadays. I checked recently on eBay and I actually saw, admittedly a low grade one, but it sold for just £20. And that's the very first one. And this was a wartime release as well. So if you are thinking of collecting these, it's not something that's going to cost a bomb anymore. You'll be pleased to hear. And here is the very first one. Now, we're not going to go through them all. You're probably aware it was published by the Daily Express, and that was where Giles had his cartoons published. This is 1943, this first one here, obviously during the war. Giles was also doing cartoons for the Forces, and there's a separate sort of series of Forces cartoons, of which I've not got any of those. Today, we'll just be sticking to the main annuals, and we'll have a look at them front and back. And we'll go from number one right the way through. I've got some facsimiles. I've got some books about Giles to have a look at. I've also got my jigsaws and a few calendars as well. So we'll have a look at all of that in today's video. So here's number two. And the early ones, I mean, I've upgraded a few over the years, but it's really just numbers 1 to 6 that are sort of the tougher ones. After that, they're pretty easy. They are generally out there. Some of the very recent ones you might find a little harder to get because they haven't really sort of gone out onto the second-hand market yet. So I think I'm missing maybe one or two of the ones in like the 2020s era, you know? But I'm not too worried. I've got a list of everything that I've got and also the ones that I want to upgrade as and when I come across them. So I've got a pretty good list of them. It's a great one, that. What I would love about a Giles annual is so much to look at in the cover. And then we look at the reverse, the gag. Just brilliant. And these already, you can see he's got his the trademark characters are absolutely spot on. A lot of them might have like the Christmas 1951 to Daddy with love from Jackie, typical of what you'd find inside a Giles annual. Often they come with an introduction. This one hasn't actually got a famous introduction, but some of them do, including even royalty. They were definitely fans. I myself used to get given the Giles annual on Boxing Day when I was growing up by my mum, and it's a tradition that's on and off been carried on even to this day. Here's number 6 now. They've started putting them on the spine here. And all these early editions have been republished as facsimiles and in much, much lower print runs. And we'll have a look at, I think I've got most of them, but not quite all of them, towards the end of this video. My copy of number 7 here is a little bit rough, so that's definitely on my upgrade list. Looks like that's the first one with a laminated cover as well. I remember for a long time, this was the early one, number 8. This was my earliest one for many, many years. And I remember reading this one literally cover to cover, like 1953. Fantastic. So here's number 9 now. And I think I've got these tactically positioned so that they don't pick up too much light. I'm not filming this in the studio today. I'm actually filming this in the house because as soon as I've done these, as I said, they're all going to be packed up and prepared for storage. Number 10. I'm sure if you ever had a Giles annual as a youngster, you'll recognize some of these great covers. Some of them, as you're probably aware, got made into jigsaws. Many were made into like prints and cards and things like that. It's another one which is a little bit low grade. I mean, as I said, they're really quite easy to pick up nowadays. It's just a case of hunting them down. What I ended up when I was pulling my collection together was I just was buying job lots off eBay. And some of the joblets were absolutely enormous, and I was able to pick it. It worked out like £1 a book. I really couldn't believe it. So that, I think is definitely the way to do it, even including the early volumes. They are around, but you do end up obviously with doubles, and I ended up giving some away to friends and donating some to a charity shop. But they really are a catalogue of the times, really, the times that they were produced. And I gotta admit, I've always loved them. It's one of the first things I ever really started collecting, particularly within the world of books, you know. It was the Giles Annual. It was bred into me quite young to be a book collector. It's number 17 here. The famous grandma on the front there. Another great one. I love that one with the bubble car they're trying to push out there. Superb. Number 19 now, another favourite of mine, because there's so much going on the cover. That's what really, they're the ones I really like, are the ones which got super busy covers. It's a bit like, the cover to Sergeant Pepper, for example. There's an awful lot to see, and there's a lot to discover the more that you look at it. And I like the Giles Annuals in particular, which have got a lot of detail in them. A bit like an early Where's Wally, if you think about it. It's funny, some of these books I can sort of remember where I actually first picked them up. That was at a friend's house, I remember. 22, Safari. See, some of these are not mint by any means, but they're my original ones that I started piecing together when I was a schoolboy, you know. 23. Now, there's a great Giles Facebook group where everything Giles related seems to appear. And you do see the odd original piece of artwork, which comes up at like a local auction house, not always, on eBay or places like that. And it's quite lively. But I have to say, and it's a real shame, but I think Giles is becoming more and more forgotten. There will be people who remember him, of course, and reading the cartoons each week, but you have to wonder how long he's going to remain relevant, beyond the scope of collectors, I suppose. I'm trying to remember which one I had given to me first off. This is 74. I remember having this one as a youngster, but it wasn't one that was bought for me brand new. I think my first one was something like 77, something like that. But all of these 70s ones, they're very, very common. I think Giles was riding high at that time, and the annuals must have been selling very well. Yeah, it might have been this one. This might have been my first one. I'm pretty sure it wasn't that one. Once again, masses of detail in that. Another great one. The family was so famous by now. And in the 70s, they did release a very nice calendar. I believe it was for Guinness, and with illustrations by Giles. And I think in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a Giles tea towel, which is very, very scarce. Now, I don't own one of those, but my friend Andy did. And he brought one round so I could film it. And we'll slip in my little 1 minute. I did it as a YouTube short a couple of years ago. We'll slip in my little video on the Giles tea towel right now as a bit of a break. Back in 1983, a promotional tea towel was released through a mail order only offer. It had artwork by top British cartoonist Carl Giles and featured his most famous creation, The Family, which includes the iconic Grandma character. The promotion was supported in print alongside a TV advert campaign which brought the Giles family to life in a colourful animation. The tea towel today is very scarce, with mint unused examples tough to find. Prices vary widely depending on condition, but examples have changed hands for as much as £100. Definitely one to keep an eye out for. If you'd like to know more, hit the subscribe button below. So I certainly remember getting all of these as they were being published on Boxing Day each year. This is number 35, 1981. Yes, I was really pleased to revive the tradition with my mum a few years back. I said none of these really past number 7 are that hard to get hold of. There's certainly some spin-offs and things which I think are probably harder. And I think the facsimiles are also quite tough because they were limited numbers, but they are out there if you're patient. Certainly in later years, obviously they just do themed reprints, which I don't think is a bad thing. And it keeps Giles alive, and they usually have new jackets or older cartoons that have been coloured in for the modern annuals, and I don't mind that at all. So give an idea of who actually did the introduction to this one. This is the 40th book, Bobby Robson, the one-time England team manager for the football squad. And by this time, Giles himself was very much an old man, and but he was still putting the cartoons out. I liken him to the career of Jules, who created Peanuts. Although Giles started a bit earlier, they ran pretty much up until they died, really. They just did what they loved doing. And what a talent, what an absolute talent. Because quite often he would have to submit 2 or 3 different cartoons for, which were topical at that time, and then the editor would then choose one. So some of them, I guess, never got used. Number of this is 45 from 1991. A mere 34 years old as we're filming this. And then I think that was it, because then we got Giles a collection, the 46. So they've kept the annual going, but it's now a compilation. As you can see, like 1968, 73, 68. It's all different years, and that's because Giles had stopped, and he may well have even passed away at that point. So here's the Giles 94, and it does say classics there. So once again, they're acknowledging that this is not new material. This is classic Giles cartoons. Same for 95, like a unique collection, never before published as an annual. So they start pulling together a lot of his other stuff that they did. He did like cards, did a lot for the RNLI, charity work, and that's what they start to pull together. This is the 49th annual, and I believe this may be the very first one published by Pedigree. So it says a new collection, new format, so it's actually slightly bigger than the regular Giles annual. And it does also say a colour section, and the colour section is generally what we were just describing, although those are just the annuals. Yeah, just a cover collection there. Still nice to see. But they do start reprinting that sort of stuff as they go along. And that leads up to the 50th Giles annual. So a commemorative one. Got forward by, at the time, the Prince of Wales, now the King, of course, Prince Charles. There he is. And that was the 50th one in 1996. And then they don't have, see, that's an RNLI image there. And there he is, there's Carl. They don't often have like gags on the back now. These are just reprints. And they're much bigger books now. They really feel sizable. They're still printed on fairly low quality paper, which is why these have aged slightly. They're not, and you do find that with cartoon books. They're not, in a way, designed to be kept, even though Giles, was always collectible, wasn't it? Or collected, and collectible. So there's the one for 2000 and at 2001. And I've got to say, some of these actually took a bit of getting. I had to wait for like little job lots of these more recent ones to turn up on places like eBay, and then I'd have to buy, 5 books in a job lot to get like the one. I remember that one there, 2001, took me a bit of time tracking down, and in the end I did find it in a nice little job lot. This is at 2003. And you can sort of see that these have not been adapted these weren't drawn particularly for covers because they just don't have the detail there, but they are illustrations that have been blown up and used on the cover. And 2004. Very, very nice indeed. There's the 2005 one. I really, really like the colouring on that one. That is particularly gorgeous, that one. Not quite as lavish for the 2006, and here they do go a bit plain with the black and white covers here. Not quite in the same league as what we just saw, which is a bit of a shame because that was really quite something. 2008. And 9. And what you would find with some of these later ones, they're broken down sort of the life of Butch. So it would either be on characters, it would be on particular themes. Sometimes they might put a bit of historical context next to the cartoon, so you knew actually what was happening in the country or in the world, or what was being referred to in the cartoon at the time, just so you could actually understand it, which is a really good thing, particularly for scholars maybe looking back at these, students of social history. The Giles annuals have got to be quite a reference because they went for such a long time. Now back to something a bit better now with the 2012 one, and much more attractive cover than what we'd had for a few years. And I think definitely I stopped collecting them around this sort of period. I thought it's just reprints, why do I even want them? But when they started brushing their act together, I got back into them again and tried to start filling in the blanks. 2013 and 2014, that's another thing that Giles did so well. Snow and snow scenes. He was a master of those. Now 2015 is in hardback, and I believe that some of these books were published in hardback and paperback, maybe to appeal to the collectors who wanted both versions. I don't think I've got any of them in both states, but I do like the hardbacks. Actually, they are really, really nice, and it does sort of give them that more sort of permanent feel, doesn't it? And really, really nice those, but it makes the books even bigger. 2016, so I can only assume that this does exist in hardback as well. 2017, another great one. 2018, this is another one in hardback for 2019. And looking online, the hardbacks don't seem any more expensive secondhand than the paperbacks. They were probably a little bit dearer at the time. This is $12.99, maybe the paperback was $9.99, something like that. But certainly be aware that there are hardback and paperback versions. Here's another hardback for 2020. Yeah, very, very nice. I really do like them. They do really set the artwork right off. 2021 now with the sheepdogs. And then I haven't got 2022 yet. It's one I'm missing, but there's 2023. Which was bought for me. And that's the last of my main annuals. Now I've got a few other bits and pieces and related items. So this was one of the early specials. I think this came out in the mid-70s. And Giles was always fond of his nurses. And they did a special just called Nurse. And I mean, this used to be fairly common. It would turn up. But nowadays, I think it is one of the slightly more expensive ones. But as I said, none of these are big money anymore. So, even though that's a slightly more unusual one, you shouldn't have to worry too much. And here's the first facsimile. So this is the facsimile of number 1. And 1946, there we are. It comes in these all come in like a slipcase, and then they're soft back, exactly the same as the originals. Obviously, they've got glossy covers, not the matte covers, so you can tell, if you've got an original or not, very, very easily. And I think, if you're not too fussed about having the originals, the facsimiles maybe are the way to go. I can't help but feel that the facsimiles are actually now harder to find than the original books. They obviously have much, much lower print runs, so, it's just something to bear in mind, really. I said I haven't got them all, but I have definitely got some of these are quite nice, where they certain scenes, this is number 3 of course, are then highlighted with the die cut cover, which is quite nice. 1949, something a bit more substantial now, the slipcase on these. $1950. I'm not sure what the limited run on these was. I don't know if it actually says inside, and they probably vary in all honesty. But it was quite high, I think, number 2636, that one. But it doesn't say of how many. I mean, it's probably as many as they could, as many as they thought they could sell, I would imagine. This is 1952 facsimile, 53/54, and then 54, 55. And that is the final facsimile that I've got, and that's number 9, isn't it? So I'm sure they went past that, but that's as far as I've got with collecting the facsimile books. Then we've got a few other related items, really. Giles, 50 years at work. I believe this tied in with an exhibition of his artwork. There we are, yeah. Which I would have loved to have gone to. But you can still pick up this catalogue online. Really, really nice little book on Giles, that one. Then we got this, which was released for the Golden Jubilee. And it's a lot of the royalty-related cartoons, which Giles did so many of and was so very, very good at. This one's Fighting Forces. And a lot of army-related stuff here, of course. Army, Navy, and Air Force, of which, as I said, they started. That was where he cut his teeth, was doing cartoons for the forces during the war. Here's another themed hardback here, Giles' London. And this one is also one that's a little bit harder to get. Giles' VE Day collection. Final years of the Second World War through the eyes of Giles. This one also comes in a little slipcase, and that's actually quite a scarce one, that. So I'd say keep your eyes peeled for that one. This one's in hardback, The History of the World, according to Giles. And you see a lot of these have been written and compiled by John Field. And then I think the first sort of celebration of Giles's life was by these books by Peter Torrey, and there was a series of them that came out in the 1990s. I pretty much bought them all as they came out, and they are excellent. That one had a hardback, and then it was reprinted in paperback, and really just a general celebration of Giles, really. And fantastic stuff. And it sort of tells his life through his cartoons. Very, very good indeed. There's a great shot of him working on a colour one there. This is Giles at war. And the Giles family. And I'll slide those over there. So we've got a few more by Peter Torrey. This is a special on Grandma. Oh, that was Robert Beaumont did that one. Then The Ultimate Giles, an illustrated tribute to the legendary cartoon. Big, thick, heavy book, this one. Once again, Peter Torrey. It was £25 when it was new. But I think that's a compilation of some of what had gone before. The Ultimate Giles. And there's The Ultimate Giles, once again, same book in paperback form. So paperback and hardback there. Now, a little bit of unusual stuff, not quite books, but this is actually a book. It's a Death's Diary from 1994. This one here, I got 2 copies of it. I found this one in a charity shop, and it was, I think the artist is called Pet, and he was a political cartoonist, and this was given for Desmond, Christmas 1993. Joel and Krista, so I think that's Joel Pet, something like that. And just a little caricature. Quite good fun. So that was the 94 one, and the 95 Death's Diary, which is quite good. I've also got, there's like a little phone card. Who remembers phone cards, eh? With a Giles one on, which is quite nice, a Giles picture. This one I remember saving because it was Giles's obituary, Daily Express, August the 29th, 1995. That was when he passed away. And as you would expect, the Express, the cartoon he'd been drawing for virtually most of his life, gave him the double page colour tribute, and that's very, very good indeed. I believe he lost both his legs towards the end of his life, but still carried on drawing. Yeah, I remember at the time how sad I was that he'd actually passed away. I've got a few other newspaper cuttings. These are period ones, so this is like a little pile, and this turned up in a collection somewhere where someone had actually cut out old cartoons. I think they go right back to the 1940s of Giles cartoons. And what I find interesting about these is that they were printed in all different sizes. We see them in the books, and of course they're uniform size, but that wasn't always the case. If we have a look through these, I mean, these are a bit more uniform, but they were in many, many sizes. But yeah, not worth anything at all. They're just a bit of fun. It's nice to see how the cartoons were originally presented. And on the back, of course, you know, all sorts of weird historical stuff from newspapers of the period. Very, very nice. Now, I mentioned earlier on how they did that great Giles cartoon in the mid-1970s. I'm sure there was some in the 1980s, but I haven't got any of those, sadly, and I've not really got much of a desire to track them down. However, these ones here just turned up in various collections. This is 1999, the one for 2000, 2002, 2003. I just got, you know, a Giles cartoon for the month, the 2004 one, and 2005. So that's my Giles calendars. And then the last thing I got to show you are my Giles jigsaws. And I did have some of these as a kid and absolutely loved them. And I always kept my eyes peeled for them at boot sales and jumble sales. And well, I managed to get a bit of a collection of these together. So this blue series, these have got 260 pages. You can see these are the wraparound covers. So that one's actually sealed, the Snowball. And then, I've got this one here. I've got it twice. I suspect one of them might have a missing piece, so they're waiting to be redone. So that was the blue series that they did. And they did another series which is 300 pieces, which is these green ones here, which are even harder. And but you recognise some of the pictures. So it must have just been a second series, which often happened with sort of jigsaws of this period. And once again, I've got two of that one. Probably got a piece missing here or there. So there you go. That is my entire Giles annual collection with a few bits of related memorabilia. Just getting it all out really before it gets packed away for probably the best part of a couple of years. But I very much look forward to the day when I can get them all out in order, with a couple of missing ones filled in as well, looking fantastic on the shelf. And as I said, if you're thinking of collecting Giles, it's not going to be an expensive hobby, and they're very, very rewarding. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that little look through those today. If you have, do please give the video a thumbs up. Do please hit the subscribe button if you've not already for regular vintage comic and collectibles action, and I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.